The next question is from Vladislav. Several dozens of listeners also like this question. On November 11th, Poland celebrated its Independence Day. You mentioned in the past that Poland was created to snatch Slavic lands from Russian civilization and create Intermarium as a result.
Not exactly.
And an opportunity to move Jews there. As a banker who works in Poland, I see a big influx of Jewish money. Kissinger himself said that Israel will disappear in 2022. Here are the questions. Does it mean that Intermarium won't have a war against Russia because they want a safe haven for their money?
It is a little bit more complicated than that.
And what will be the destiny of native people of Intermarium? How will the formation of this new state take place?
Things are a little bit more complicated. The Intermarium project was a result of Poland's failure to become a governance concentration center, the center of united Slavic lands with the framework of twofold governance by global predictor, by both its Euro-Asian and Euro-Atlantic parts, red and white, north and south. Global elites have kept this trend since ancient Egypt. So the question arose that Poland was not up to the task of subduing Russia, and the Western nations cannot complete this task neither through the change of Tsar's dynasty, nor there are setbacks one after another. Suddenly Peter the Great leaped out. They prepared a boy, nurtured and set him up in order for him to destroy Russia, but he, bang, created an empire out of Russia. On the Western basis, but a Russian one, which became a subject of global politics and in contradiction with global elites. After that, seemingly everything was going according to the plan. And again, suddenly, Nicholas I. Everything went down the drain. They removed Nicholas I, but Emperor Alexander III built on Nicholas I's achievements. The success of Alexander III was based on Nicholas I's lifetime work. You have to be blind not to see that. Then Bolsheviks came. But by the time World War I had been pre-planned, I remind you that World War I, World War of the 20th century in two parts, World War I and World War II, to be precise, was scheduled no later than 1815, the year when 100 days of Napoleon operation took place. It is described in detail in the book War. By the way, when we mentioned our work State, this book has been already published. Some people prefer paper books to electronic ones, even though the electronic format of the book has been available for a long time now. Well, the book State has been printed now. So both parts of the World War of the 20th century were scheduled no later than 1815. I repeat, we wrote about the preparations for World War in the book War. I was a bit carried away. About Intermarium. The situation is the following. Officially, the idea of Intermarium belongs to Pilsudski. Pilsudski allegedly predicted the beginning of World War I. However, in reality, Pilsudski was just given the task to make a certain announcement of these plans. The creation of new states and the World War of 20th century were scheduled simultaneously. World War was supposed to cause, through revolution movements, the crash of European monarchies, empires, German, Austro-Hungarian and Russian, and the creation of new states. Therefore, according to that plan, Intermarium project was conceived, and Pilsudski announced a certain part of the plan, which in itself was largely supplementary to the project Intermarium. Why? To make a distraction that would help to implement the bigger plan. In other words, here is a war of Intermarium states against Russia, and we are fighting here. But when they move further to the west, here we don't care and, on the contrary, even help them. It's the usage of foreign resources and foreign efforts to accomplish all of it. That is why, in principle, Intermarium is designed not as a subject of confrontation towards Russia, but a potential war of Intermarium project against Russia. It's just an additional bonus, but under certain conditions. In general, any war against Russia must be supported by an internal weakness of governance in Russia. No war against Russia will ever be successful unless there is betrayal of the elites. Elites did not betray in 1812. Why did Napoleon move towards Moscow, but not towards St. Petersburg? By the way, if Napoleon had gone to St. Petersburg, then the betrayal would have taken place. Moscow was a stronghold of patriotic clans at that time. And Napoleon's offer was, in essence, Romanov dynasty does not correlate to global predictors' plans and is not working effectively enough towards destruction of Russia and transformation of Russia into a raw material appendage of the West. Here is our offer to you, the oldest families, Rurikids, Gediminids, Algertovichs. You are infringed on your rights by the rootless Romanov dynasty. Put one of your own and everything will be all right. But it didn't work out. There was a genius commander and statesman, Mikhail Kutuzov, who in principle became the leader of those patriotic clans and didn't allow the betrayal to take place. And those rootless, West-oriented elites in St. Petersburg were deprived of an opportunity to betray Russia. Napoleon was pushed out of Russia, and they lost. It is described in detail in the book War. So, the essence is in the following. The plan of Pilsudski envisaged an occupation of Belorussia, and not just Western Belorussia. They claimed for more. Ukraine, it goes without saying, not to mention the part of Ukraine that ended up under Poland governance after World War I. Baltic states as a bonus. If Russia collapsed, then this area, Baltic states, Belarus and Ukraine, would become part of Intermarium as an additional resource base. It is labor power and it is natural resources. Intermarium project in itself, it is rebuilding of the Austro-Hungarian Empire on a new basis, with the addition of some territories that had not been a part of it previously. For example, not all Poland, In the past, Poland was divided into 3 parts, but according to the Intermarium project, all Poland would be included in Intermarium. And the key assembling should be based exactly on Poland and Czechoslovakia. I would like to underline Czechoslovakia. In general, the key point in Intermarium is Czechia and Austria. Prague is an occult center of world Jewry, and it is a tool in governance, and not some world Jewish conspiracy as many think. Nevertheless, headquarters must be somewhere. This information should be safely kept somewhere. So Prague is such a center, and the second such center is Vienna, Habsburg Library. It means a lot, and that is why the Soviet Union voluntarily left Vienna after Stalin's death. Khrushchev immediately gave up. We are leaving it for you. Nevertheless, when the West requested to give up the second part, Czechoslovakian crisis in 1968, Soviet elites understood if we give up Czechoslovakia now, no one will talk to us anymore under any circumstances. And Czechoslovakia was not given away, though Soviet elites took part in all other processes of betrayal of the Soviet Union. But Czechoslovakia was their bargaining chip. Here is the key point. Intermarium is called so because it is located between the Baltic and the Black Seas. The following territories are part of Intermarium with no alternative: Poland, Czechoslovakia, Hungary, Romania and Austria. Everything else is a certain bonus in case of the success of the Intermarium project and weakness of Russia. It is Baltic states, Belarus, Ukraine. If migration wave is not too strong, then Intermarium project will include also the Balkans, namely Bulgaria, Yugoslavia and Greece. But it depends on the dynamics of creation of the European Islamic Caliphate. As a minimum, Intermarium would have access to the Black Sea through Ukraine and Romania. As a bonus, Intermarium might also have access to the Black Sea through Yugoslavia, Bulgaria and Greece, but it will depend on the success of the European Islamic Caliphate project. One needs to understand that the nucleus of the Intermarium project is Poland, Czechoslovakia, Czechia and Slovakia, Hungary, Romania and Austria. This nucleus must be assembled. All other territories are bonuses to the extent possible. A war of this territory is possible both against the East, in case of Russia's weakness, and especially against the West, when Europe will be reformed, during the establishment of the European Islamic Caliphate. And here Intermarium could use the resources of Belarus and Ukraine. Who else would fight those migrants, who are destroying old European states and on the ruins will build new nations, new languages, new states? European countries will still remain. It's just those countries that will be reformed into new states. New state borders, in most parts, won't be aligned with current countries' borders for one simple reason. Migration has its own conditions, and migrants' concentration in groups in different countries will take place differently. And new states' borders will reflect that. In this regard, to confront European Islamic Caliphate, Intermarium needs Slavic warriors, Belarusians and Ukrainians, who can bring the following territories to Intermarium as a bonus: Greece, Yugoslavia and Bulgaria. Romania, I repeat, will be part of Intermarium by default. Otherwise, Intermarium will not exist at all. Connotations with Poland from sea to sea.